morning. It is Brian J. and oh, my voice gave out. Let's try that one more time. Good morning. It's Connecting Communities with Brian J. and Laura Lee. Woo! Wow,
morning.
Don't
feel bad. Yeah, don't feel bad. Puberty's hard for everybody. I know. It's fine.
Anytime I get to say Laura Lee, I just get excited. So, I mean,
I know,
right?
Right?
I get to hang out with newly dyed. That's not nice. I shouldn't say that. Newly.
Freshly.
Freshly. Doesn't sound right. Newly.
It's
you just
newly.
got a new
Newly's
dye.
a
Let's go that route. What about the tats? So listen, we've had some folks that have reached out saying, what's her tat looking like? Because I ended up tagging your post last week about you getting your tattoos.
Yeah.
What's the status?
Yeah. So last week I just got the nose piercing done and had the consultation for the tattoo. The actual tattoo appointment is next week, I think.
Okay.
Is next week. So
got it.
Yep. And but it's gonna go right back here. We're gonna add Dumbledore's wand. So the Elder Wand from Harry Potter will be taking up residence back
Laura,
there.
that's a sensitive spot.
It is. I've got one down here. So it's actually not that bad. I've got a couple that are right in here too. So
yeah. My worst tattoo, worst one, I cried and I was like, I'm done. Let's not do this. And unfortunately, they couldn't stop. Was my ring finger. That was my worst. And I didn't even go all the way around. I wimped out. I'm like, I can't do it. Anything else? I've been good.
I can see because that's like so close. That's just like right on bone.
Yeah.
See why that one would hurt really bad.
So. Otherwise, it's my arms. So I've got from my wrists all the way up to my biceps on both arms and my inner arm. Is that what? Forearm? Inner forearm, I guess is what they're called.
Yeah, inner forearm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a medic. I never claimed to be, except with the training of Grey's Anatomy.
Exactly. We're on a little bit of a struggle bus right now this morning, but it's okay.
Listen, as Jackson Robert would say, Dad, you're driving the little bus today. Like, I couldn't even get on. I don't know where the keys are. Like, I'm trying here. Yeah, I had a hat on, but you couldn't see my eyes, and now I feel like my baldness is shining off. I'm bright like a diamond. Laura, it's that 80s hanger again. We had this earlier. I know. I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here. Maybe I'll angle it so you don't see it, right?
There you go.
Look, I own my 80s dynasty hangers, ladies and gentlemen. So we have a great show today. Lots of things to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more excited to hear your take on Donald Trump.
Woo! If we only knew last Wednesday morning. If we only knew.
Absolutely. So with saying that, we got some good things to come on. Sara Eiden will be hanging out with us today, and she is going to give us an insight of what Fallen Timbers Mall and that whole concept is looking like during COVID 1 year later, right? Mm-hmm. And then she has some special treats and maybe some special specials for traveling on where we could travel to. So I ended up yesterday. I'll save that for her to be here because I got a little story. And unfortunately, I've got to change my travel arrangements now. But with that being said, what was your week like? You're back in school.
Yeah, grad school started back up this week. One class so far on Monday. That one was interesting. It's the majority of the people in the class are undergrads. So, I'm a non-traditional student. I'm, closer to 40 than I am to 20 and a lot of these kids are very, especially undergrads, they're closer to 20. And with the grad students, there's more, they've been through a little bit more. A lot of them haven't come through straight after undergrad. So they're, they've got a little bit more experience, but it's, my first experience in a class with mostly undergrads, especially after the political events of the last week was quite eye-opening, but, God love our professors. They work hard.
Right.
They work real hard,
Well,
and they're just so nice about it too.
let me ask you. I mean, and I know we're going to dive into this, but keep it short,
I'll
right?
try. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. Do you see the difference in that 20-year-old political thought process versus that 40-year-old, like being on campus? I'm sure
Yeah.
that the jibber jabber is all about that, right? At the end of the day. So what are you
Well,
hearing or
and yeah,
seeing?
and considering as well, these are most of it's a political science class, so most of these kids are political science majors. So yeah, it's of course top of mind for them. One thing, one thing that first caught me off guard before we even got into deeper political conversations with them is when we did our group introductions, everybody said introduced their pronouns with their name, just like automatically. That wasn't something that was, instructed to do or anything. So I thought that was really interesting and a great example of, some of that, their worldview is so much wider than, even someone like mine is. Like I'm supportive of, the entire LGBTQ rainbow. It's not within my practice when I introduce myself to name my pronouns, and these kids it's automatic for them. So that I think was interesting. It was also interesting
Well, can
that
we
there
pause for
is
25 seconds? I want to touch
yes,
base. You
yeah,
said LGBTQ alphabet, right?
rainbow. Did I say
Rainbow,
alphabet?
rainbow, rainbow. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I just heard another version, which was the alphabet mafia.
Oh yeah. I know I'm a member of the Alphabet Mafia. I don't know. That's part of our liberal gay agenda
Yeah.
is it's being dictated by the Alphabet Mafia. So for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just I
It's good
love that
stuff.
we are owning the letters, right, in
Yeah.
different platforms and varieties. I just find that where we are today, where we were 20 years
Mhm.
ago, is
Right.
just night and day. I
It
just got done
is. It
watching the
is.
movie Philadelphia, and
Oh yeah.
I remember when that movie came out on how ahead of its time it was, right?
Oh, and it was so
Right?
controversial
Yeah.
about, just and Tom Hanks agreeing to play the role was such a big deal about, because for folks that may not remember, that movie was one of the first like depictions of someone dealing with the AIDS crisis in
Yeah.
America. And that was very hush hush, very, it was very swept under the
Grid.
rug. And
They were calling it
yeah,
grid.
GRID. Yeah, which stood for gay related immune deficiency because they thought it was only a disease that was within the gay community. And even that, like, what counted, and that was like just they understood that as just gay men.
Yeah.
They didn't understand that as,
Oh
anybody
yeah.
else. So it
And
was, yeah, it's,
and they made it look, well, they didn't make it. It was looked at in um dirty sex at that, right? And I'm gonna
yeah,
use the word
yeah,
dirty sex, right? Like
right,
movie
yeah,
theaters. Like,
right,
it was not
exactly.
depicted. There's where I was looking for. It was not depicted in a relationship, right?
No,
It was
right.
not. It was you're a whole.
Unsafe, yeah, unsafe casual
Oops.
hookups, right, exactly, yeah. And it's just, so part of me when you think about that type of stuff, part of me is sympathetic because of how much has moved in the last 20 years. Part of me is sympathetic to people who have a hard time coming along with it and coming, and there so much has changed in such a short amount of time. I do have a base level understanding of where people get fearful. But that's about as far as my, empathy
Yeah.
can go. Like there does come to a point where like you can't let your fear, at least I feel you can't let your fear overtake what your, everything. And that's what I think a lot of it is. But I did find it interesting. There was one student who did speak up about the, political events of the past week, and about, specifically he brought up President Trump being deplatformed and taken off of Facebook and Twitter, and made the incorrect calling it a First Amendment violation. And if my sweet professor didn't just in like the most lovingly way absolutely destroy this little 19-year-old youngling and his misunderstanding of what is a First Amendment violation and whether or not private companies have a right to silence people. Like it was really interesting. And and I've got another class tonight, which I'm less excited about because it's budgeting and
Okay.
that's my
That's your thing.
budgets are not my jam. They are not my
Yeah.
jam. I like to spend the money. I don't It's harder. The other sides of it are harder for me.
No, I totally can appreciate that. I love a good spreadsheet, right? If I get a good
Hmm.
spreadsheet and I get to make sure the columns here match and the columns here match, and I get to build my little
Yeah,
formula, I'm all about it. All about it. So, well, we are
that's how my
bringing in good
ex-husband
old
was too.
Sarah. Sarah is in our
Okay.
waiting room. So let's bring her in and do a nice little introduction on her. There's Sarah. Sarah is connecting to audio currently and will be with us shortly. So while that occurs, Laura, what else is going on? You're back in school. Okay. I
Yep.
saw that you threw out another Toledo Talks yesterday.
Yep. Yep, we've had so I do those on Tuesdays and Fridays. So that's been really nice, timing with all the news as well.
Yeah,
So yep, we did another episode on Friday and another episode then yesterday. Toledo Talks on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I got some big news. Are you ready to hear some
Yes,
big news? We have some
I
new
am.
sponsors coming on for us. So
Yay!
officially, as of next week, we will have Dance Fam that will be joining us. And let me tell you, they don't just dance, right? They also have this improv class that is so much fun.
Oh, sweet.
So much fun. It's about an hour, 15 hour, 30 minutes. You do scene work, you do one-on-one work, you do little, so engaging. And it's Zoom. Now you can do a face-to-face, so they do open up the ballroom,
Mhm.
but you can do it and engage here at your home every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. To try it out is free. So you get one tryout, right, to see if it's something you like.
Nice.
And then it is $15 to drop in, or you can do a good package deal for $40 for 4 sessions. And sometimes she throws out a lot of great deals that you can take advantage of as well. But at least try it out for free, right? Wednesday, 7:30,
Heck
which
yeah.
is pretty phenomenal. And we have a couple other sponsors coming through that I will throw out there. But one of my favorites, because they're all my favorite, right? But as everyone knows, I've really grabbed my attention toward those goats, right? I remember back in the day, you're talking about 2 years. My friend, we're gonna call her Jenny, okay? Because if I say her real name, she may get in trouble. So good old Jenny and I were watching the neighborhood app, and there were goats
Mm.
that were roaming around. So I called Jenny and said, Jenny, you got to go to this area. And she drove around looking for the goats, and we were going to grab these goats. So I've been wanting goats forever, like fainting goats. Well, anyway, long story short, Goats of Anarchy. They are a rescue that create these prosthetics for the goats and other different elements and services to make sure that they are taken care of. It's crazy. Oh, it's crazy. I could talk about this for hours, and we're gonna have a show that's dedicated to what and how we eat, because some of the things out there I had no clue of. Here's a quick story, okay, and then we're gonna get right into Sarah. Sarah, you got to bring the happiness when we come out here because this story is really impressive. So you better start,
I
wow, when you come on board because they're gonna need you. So they do not have slaughter trucks during the day because they don't want you to see all these animals that they're taking to slaughter. So they run at night. They will put all of these pigs in this truck where they are smushed, right, to corner to corner, panel to panel. And it's so cold that the pigs get stuck to the side of the truck, and they will take the shovel and separate them with their shovel, cutting their skin, having no care And that's my depression story, right? And there's so many stories like that that we don't even
Yeah.
see or know about. The way they take care of chickens, right? Or veal, and they separate that boy cow from his mom, and he's screaming. It reminds me of a lobster going into a pan, right? That
Hmm.
it's just it's disgusting on how that is taken care of. And then you have other situations like farm to table, and I mean wet markets. Do you know there's wet markets out here where people will physically go and say I want a goat, and then they will go and get people steal goats. People steal goats out of people's barns.
Hmm.
We need to talk about that. So in saying that, we need Sarah to bring some happiness back to us and some joy. So Sarah, welcome, 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 welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah, with no H. Okay,
Correct. Yep.
Sarah with no H. There we go. Now, is it Eiden or Eden?
It's Eiden.
I was correct, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Sarah with no H, Eiden. I like that. We're gonna brand your name like that. All right.
I like
Go to
it.
sarahnoh.com.
Find out if it's open.
That's right. I could Google it right now.
Perfect.
Sarah with no H. So welcome, welcome. So Sarah, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? I've shared some details about your involvement with good old Fallen Timbers Mall, right? And then I've also talked about how you're going to share today on where we can go on vacay. Uh, and unfortunately, I did have a conversation with my travel partner, and they are on another agenda. So we got to talk about that.
No
Apparently, they want to go to
worries.
Hocking Hills instead.
It
So
was on the list I was gonna give you. So
there you go.
it's
So
perfect.
concentrate on Hocking Hills, which means that we do not need to fly anywhere.
Which is
Because
wonderful because
my travel partner does not like to travel more than 2 hours. They get cranky. So Sarah, let's talk about who, what, where, when, why, and most important job you have is you're a mom during pandemic.
Yes. Hi. So I'm Sara No H, and I am here at the shops at Fallen Timbers. I do the admin work, I do the marketing, I do all of the things, as well as I am an independent travel agent on the side, and my newest job being a mom. I had my son in December of 19. So it has been a whole year of pandemic baby. um Fortunately, there's got to be some fortunately's for 2020. I did get to spend a lot of extra time at home, really leaning into that new role in my life, which was a wonderful blessing. Also, I am so happy to be back in an office. But I have been working with my travel agency for about a year and a half now. Um, we are independent, so I have an agency that kind of takes care of the back end stuff for me, and I just get to do the fun part of planning people's vacations and dealing with all the legwork that is often quite frustrating for those who aren't frequent travelers, which is really nice because you're not paying me to do it. Where you're going is paying me to do it, and you don't have to worry about waiting on hold if things get discombobulated, because that seems to be travel life right now. And I specialize in theme parks. I spent a lot of my college time actually working at the theme parks in Orlando. So I've done 2 college internships at Walt Disney World, and then post grad immediately I worked a year at Universal Orlando Resort. In
I
the
saw
Harry
that you were, are you allowed to tell us what character you were, or is that like
Well, I
all?
wasn't a performer, so
Okay,
I can be a little bit more transparent about what my roles were.
okay.
At Disney, my first internship, I worked in attractions, so I helped operate the Rock and Roller Coaster. I did some parade audience control at Hollywood Studios, and did some crowd control for the Fantasmic Night Show. My second internship, I
What
was
does crowd control entitle? Is that like where you're pumping
crowd
them up, you're getting them
control.
excited?
It's a lot more about hurting people.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot more of like, here, come this way, sit over here. And
Which you're able to hone in your personal skills, right? Because you
Yes.
can't be a rude individual just because you have a badge, right? So you have to engage in conversation, get them on your side, because they don't want to upset Sarah without an H. Sidebar,
Yes.
we're going to start saying Sarah without an H, because
I
Sarah
love
with
it.
no H is taken, okay?
Oh,
But Sarah without an
without an
H
H.
is available for $11.99.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect. Perfect. Sarah with that an H here
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
go sit down.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
True
Yeah.
story,
So
though.
it was definitely an overhaul of anything you would ever think customer service wise. I can guarantee you that the Disney training is the most encompassing of training, from day one. When you go in for your traditions class, they ask everyone, by role, raise your hand if you're in attractions, raise your hand if you're in entertainment, and the final one they ask is raise your hand if you're in custodial. And it gets you every time, because the custodial applied cast members will raise their hands, but you're wrong. Everyone is custodial. It's everyone's job to keep the place clean. It's everyone's job to keep the place friendly. And so it was really humbling. If you see trash, you pick it up.
I think, listen, let's
Yeah.
pause this for 25 seconds. So you just, Sarah, you said some powerful words today. It's everyone's job, right? To be kind, to keep the place clean, to keep it going. So Laura, I'm going to you. I hope I can look at you and what you're seeing, okay? Why is America not like that? Is it not our responsibility to keep it clean, right?
Yeah.
Keep it kind. That's all I gotta say to that. I'm dropping the mic.
Absolutely.
So Sarah, back to you withoutanh.com. So you get to play, and I use the word play loosely,
Yes.
right? Because it's hard work at the end of the day. As
Yeah.
glamorous as and fun as the job is, it's still a job and a commitment that you have. So you're in Orlando, Florida, hanging out. First off, let me just tell you, there's alligators there if you didn't know. Okay.
I do. Yes.
And if you
Oh
ever
my
go back
goodness.
there, I'm not gonna see you. I can't go to Florida, because let me tell you why. And everyone's like, oh no, it's as long as you're not on the ground and it's okay. I'm always on the ground. I fall. Okay. When I went skiing, I put these boots on, I fell. Okay. When I went outside with my skis on, I fell and couldn't get up. I sat there for like 5 minutes until this 12-year-old ski instructor told me how to take my skis off. Just laying there in the snow, right, hanging out. I get in, I take my boots off. Guess what happens? My legs are so weak, bam, fell down.
Yep.
I got there going, hey, I'm gonna go on this hill, and they were like, no, I'm gonna go on the bunny hill. I'm like, well, you go on the bunny hill. I'm gonna go ski on this one. I'm doing this. I'm going on the lift. I never got off the beginner's hill. I never made it to the bunny hill.
You did
So,
great.
Unacceptable. So let's get back. You're in Florida. You do your internships. You're done.
Yes.
How do you end up Toledo, Ohio?
Well, I was born and raised in Holgate, Ohio, which is about an hour south of here, about 20 miles between Defiance and Napoleon. So generally from this area, but as much as working at the theme parks pays you in magic and smiles and wonderful life, it does not pay you in much money.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, because do they house you?
No.
So they don't Cedar Point you, where they trap you like Dirty Dancing in the 1980s, right? Or
so
60s?
during the college program, there's offered housing, where the expenses come out of your paycheck automatically.
They still charge you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But when I did my second internship, I had just graduated and I did not want to stay in housing with all the rest of the program kids. So I had a friend from my previous time there that we got an apartment and lived together, and much more expensive, but much
Freedom.
more, much more real life experience of having an apartment, living out of state, less like college, more real life. So it was a really great time. I loved it. I went on to work at Universal Orlando in the entertainment division, where I got to do some show like quality control and security for performers. Worked with the Harry Potter crew mostly.
Oh, there's Laura getting excited. Laura
Yeah,
has
have you
all the
been, Laura?
tattoos of Harry Potter.
I have not, yeah, but if you can see, I've got the Hogwarts houses here
Yes,
in the background.
I
and
love it.
I've got several Harry Potter tattoos. So yes,
Ah,
I've
that's
not been yet.
amazing.
My plan was at the beginning of 2020 was to go down for the week between Christmas and New Year's and spend time with friends and family and go to the Wizarding World. But then, 2020 had other plans. So I've
Right.
not been yet, but I'm hoping 2021 I can get down there and visit.
Yes, it is amazing. I tell you, it is just like walking into the Wizarding World. Every piece of the parks had to be approved by JK herself, which
Yeah.
Wow.
made it move a little slow, but definitely,
Right.
absolutely made it worth it. Butterbeer is perfect all 4 ways.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. The entertainment is spot on. The aesthetic is amazing. The parks are wonderful, and it was an amazing experience. I'm definitely a different person professionally than I would have been without the experience at the parks.
I think it's it's a whole other experience than college. So to be able to have both pieces of that is really, really huge at the end of the day. So I love it. I love it. So how do you go from performing, right, and working at a theme park to booking people's experiences at theme parks and other resorts and vacations?
Yeah,
.com.
so .com. Yes. So I came back home and I got I got a quick job that I was able to get. I started working at Subway and then moved
You were
into
a sandwich artist too?
I was a sandwich artist. I have
Oh.
done probably collective 2 years of sandwich artist
Okay, so let me
time.
ask you this.
Okay.
As a Subway snob,
Yes.
okay, do you know what the BMT actually stands for, Sarah?
The BMT
Yes, Sarah.
actually stands for.
Will you hear it?
I do not.
Sarah, I was gonna buy 10 vacations from you if you knew what a
Oh,
BMT
geez.
was. Can't do it now.
I know what's on it, I think anymore, but I don't know what it stands for.
Biggest, meatiest, tastiest.
Oh.
Now I'm gonna
Oh.
assume you were not the U gouge kind of girl. You were in a 45 and then straight across with a 45 kind of girl. Yeah, you're whatever. You're cut. The meat always fell out. You got to U gouge that bad boy.
No, my
Okay?
meat did not fall out. No, you got to put it on flat on the bread. You don't put it on the crease. And
That is
it's
true.
important to leave that crease break. You got to seam the
Exactly.
bread between the veggies and the meat so it'll close right.
Mhm.
Did you ever have a customer ask for a U gouge?
Not a U gouge, but I definitely had a few that just wanted the bread scooped out of it.
Got it.
So they kind of wanted a husk of bread.
Yeah.
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 Just the shell of the bread.
Yeah.
Laura, do you remember the U gouge?
Oh yeah, I was a sandwich artist as well in high school, and
Right.
they were just getting away from the U gouge and doing the easier cut when I started working for there. Sarah, okay, so you were a sandwich artist. Can you eat Subway now? Because I still cannot. I can't. I smell the bread proofing and I have to run the other way.
Yeah, no, I still do. Here in my office, I am like 10 feet from our Subway, so I do frequent, but I have to admit I am that annoying customer that I always hated because I know exactly how I want my sandwich done, even though they've updated how they do things.
You're like, no.
I'm like, okay, so I want this sub and I want it this way.
Yeah, they're like, we don't make that. Yeah, you do. Okay,
Yeah.
the button is right underneath the water. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Well, it's like Taco Bell getting rid of some of their stuff. Like, okay, here it is. Their Fiesta or their Fresco style. It no longer comes with onions.
Oh.
Why?
Such an odd thing to get rid of.
Yeah.
Right? But they can do it, but only with tomato. You have onions.
Oh,
Why not put onions
yeah,
in there?
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You
Well,
don't
and I
charge
know
me
that
for them when
I
I
know
add them.
a lot of the stuff that they got rid of too were like the vegetarian people used as vegetarian options. So I think they didn't quite realize what all they were doing when they changed up that menu. So they might be redoing it. But
I
yeah,
hope.
I still can't. I just smell, I can like, even just talking about it, thinking about the smell of the proofing bread. It's like,
Oh,
nope, can't do it.
I love it. My mom worked at Subway when I was a kid, so I would have the BMT or the pastrami with my bag of chips and my big old cookie for lunch. All the kids were like, ooh, and all like I was it. I got to go on the weekends and I'd work and they paid me in cookies and sandwiches, right? I mean, I used to make the tuna fish, right? Without
Oh
gloves.
yeah.
Ew. Like, ew.
Yuck.
And if I was doing it with no gloves, other people were doing it with no gloves. But I love the crab, the seafood and crab. Oh, with the pepper, it's so good, so good. Well, listen, Sarah, how do touch with you if we want to travel during this pandemic? Because we can still travel, right?
Absolutely. Yes. No, travel is still happening. I've got fellow agents who traveled, honestly, other than the complete shutdown short period that traveled throughout the year last year. There's different ways to make it happen safely and effectively for everyone in your group based on your comfort levels. I am on Facebook, Sarah with Walt's World Vacations, and I also have my own website, plantravelmagic.com. On my website, I've got a couple different blogs actually written about traveling right now. Different essential items that you'll want, like hand sanitizer. I found the cutest refillable hand sanitizer packets. So it's really nice to be able to buy your sanitizer in bulk. Like go to
Yeah.
Costco, get the big old jar, and then have your refillable silicone that you just pump into, connect it to your bag or your belt loop on your pants, and you're set. Multiple masks, because I know my ears get tired and of different materials.
Mhm.
Sarah, you obviously have not listened to our show before. So I'm gonna fill you in very quickly. Um, I just recently watched an old episode of Will and Grace. I love when they did the live shows, and one of the the last live show that they did was set in Karen's bathroom. And one of the last things, they opened the medicine cabinet, and all of these pills just started scrolling down. Right, that is how I think of Laura's closet with masks. So I feel like
I
that
love
you
it.
go to
It
Laura's
is.
closet to grab a mask
It
and
is.
all these masks just fall on top of you.
Yes. Oh my
I have a
goodness.
nice basket. I have a nice sized basket full of them.
That's amazing. Yeah, so bring your basket.
Yep.
And another great tip for your mask while you're out. So while you're out and about, you're definitely going to want to stop and go eat somewhere. If you can do outdoor dining, that's amazing. If you're comfortable eating inside, that's awesome too. A Ziploc or reusable baggie to put your mask in, because we don't know what germs we have coming around. So it's great to be able to just shove that in a baggie or set it on the baggie so you're not transferring any of your germs or picking up anything that's on a surface. And you can just stash it away while you don't need it, pull it back out, or get out a fresh one and use that bag as like a wet bag or a laundry bag. So that's,
Great tip.
yeah.
That is a really good idea. Yeah, I
Also
didn't even
take a
think about
couple
that. Just
for
like,
your hotel.
yeah, I didn't, that's actually a really good idea, even for just like staying home. If you're someone that's going out and having a special night, going out to a restaurant, bring a second mask and put that on after you guys are done eating. What a great idea.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
It's really, it's just a simple extra thing you can do. The masks don't take up a ton of space.
Yeah.
And I don't know about either of you, but my purse just seems to keep getting larger. So I find more space for things. So
It's
an
true.
extra bag and a mask does no harm. Also, if you're staying at a hotel or a B&B or something like that, bring a baggie for the remote. They clean them, but it's always good to have your own additional precautions, especially if you're going to be going in and out of the room and going to different places.
Okay.
That extra level of protection on you.
Why do I feel like the
That's a really
Ziploc
good
bag
idea
is going to
too.
be the new toilet paper of 2021? I'm saying.
Right.
It very well could be.
Right.
And if you're going more green and want to do reusable, there's awesome reusable bags you can get at different stores or online. Or, if
Mhm.
you are a fan of single-use products, go ahead and grab a Ziploc. You can kind of customize it. I like the reusables because they come in fun colors.
Well, I was
Same.
thinking about this. I was thinking about how to create this, and I'm just saying, if anyone out there takes my idea, I'm coming after you. Okay. How I can create a reusable bag. So I have a Ziploc bag, and I just have like a peel when I have carrots in it, right? Maybe some carrots and
Mhm.
radishes. And then I take a peel, and I just peel it off, and then there's the second layer, and I throw that away, and I could use it twice.
Okay, I like
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
That's a good
obviously could
idea
use it for
too.
chicken, right? But
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
but for chicken, or not for chicken, but for vegetables, or I don't know. I don't know the logistics of that. But speaking of logistics, first off, let's talk about how we can get a hold of you. What's the phone number, Sarah?
Yes,
withoutanh.com.
SarahWithoutAnH.com.
You
You can
gotta,
reach
you
me.
realize you gotta go buy that now, right?
I
Because
do. I realize it now. So you can reach me at 419. Goodness gracious, I haven't given out my
Sarah's like, wait, let me put the
agency
phone number
number.
in, because I do that,
Let
right?
let
Like, I don't
me
know my
find
number until I
it.
dial it.
Exactly. No, it's crazy. Sometimes I just
And that's only because
lose
I got to
the
put it in at
information.
Kroger. Okay. I mean, that's the only
Right.
reason I remember my phone number.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Here
How
we
many
go.
phone numbers
do
do
you
you
ever
know, Laura?
do I know like
Mhm.
3? I don't know.
Right? I know my
Yeah.
mom's. I know
Yep.
Susan's.
Yep.
And I know
I got my
Holly's.
I know my parents. I still know my ex-husbands. I know one of my friends' husbands, because his phone number is one off of my mom's. So it's like I have that memorized. And also in her phone number, I have her phone number memorized too. So it's not super weird, but
Okay, so it's 419-740-1753.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate your time and energy today, kind of giving us some best bets on how we're traveling. Anything happening at the mall real quick?
We have all of our stores are open again, thankfully. We do have updated hours, so we are open a little bit longer now, 11 to 8 during the week, and then
Oh,
noon to
you're longer than Franklin Park Mall.
Are
Saturday,
we?
they closed at 7.
See, some of our stores are going off of their corporate directed hours, which, during this time, it's not something that we're going to press on, because everyone's going to have different levels of where they're comfortable and how much they're doing business after a certain point in the day. So definitely call and see if
Yeah.
your store is open, if you're coming out in the evening. And then Sundays, we do have shorter hours. We're noon to 5.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. I appreciate that. So I think our next subject is pretty clear, right? And Laura, I don't know about you, but did you just get the Facebook Live update? Yeah,
Yep.
about the House is taking the second impeachment right now.
Yep. They
Right?
have
They're
started.
literally
Yep.
speaking about it right here, right now. Laura from Toledo, Ohio, fill us in.
Ah, man.
First off, pause. There is a great piece. I don't want, maybe not great's not the word. There was a nice educational piece on Hulu that I started watching last night
Oh, yeah.
on the demise of the charge and takeover of the Capitol, which I thought
Yeah,
was
I
pretty decent.
saw that. I haven't watched it, but I did see that they posted that. So that's going to be very interesting. I do think it's important that we get more views and more vantage points, because right now I think a lot of people are having a really hard time defining what happened, which was a nationalist terrorist attack. Our Capitol building was invaded by insurrectionists, and and that's the first time anyone has breached the Capitol since the War of 1812, when the British invaded the Capitol. Even during the Civil War, the South was never able to invade and take control of our capital. So I really think that it's very important that people are very clear about what happened historically. I also think it's very important that we get more images of what occurred, because what was initially seen in the scenes from outside and in the pictures that were first released, it did make it look like it was sort of a silly, uncontrolled tourist event. Like we did not, the full seriousness of what occurred was not first reported. And you're getting more images now of the actual violence that was going on inside, the way the Capitol police officers we've seen images that there have been some people that were letting the insurrectionists in and taking selfies with them, and a lot of, there's going to be a lot of really deep conversations that we've already started to have about our police force, and I think that they're unavoidable to talk about now. Unfortunately, that conversation is also going to extend to our armed services. There's a lot of current and retired military folks that are being found to be part of the group. So we're just going to have some really deep conversations about how trenchant white supremacy is in all of our institutions. And it's not a comfortable conversation to have. All three of us on here are white folks. So, it's—
I'm a white guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. We've all benefited from these from this, and we're working. And it doesn't make us all bad people, but we just need to recognize that we've all had some advantages that other folks don't get to have, and we need to just really be honest about how we can move forward in the most equitable way possible, because what we've been doing isn't working. And it's been a lot longer than the last 5 years that we've had these problems, but they have been— the Band-Aid was ripped all the way off, and the wound has been exposed, and it's important to treat it and not just cover it back up. And so I do understand that it's super divisive, and and we're in a very polarized country, but I think it's very important historically that that we get this documented and that folks are held to account.
I think what I'm fearful to happen. Well, first off, I watched maybe 25, 30 minutes of that documentary. And I couldn't finish it. It made my stomach very ill. As I was watching it, one of the comments was made, why were we not prepared for this? They had a whole backstory. He's been pounding this out for 2-3 weeks at this point. Why were we not ready for this? Black Lives Matter protests, we were ready. We were aggressive. We didn't have shields here. It's very, very intense. My fear is people are going to say, well, he's out in 10 days, 7 days, whatever. But he can run again, and I'm fearful he may win. Okay. Because if people are doing this right now, could you imagine in 4 years what's going to be planned with that anger?
Oh, I'm worried about what's going to be planned for the next week.
Yeah, what's going to happen next week? What's going to happen next week? So he needs to be held accountable. Will he be? I feel like there's a better shot now than there was on his first impeachment.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah. You've definitely got like a Liz Cheney coming out and saying, and being in support yesterday. She's the number 3, person in leadership for the Republicans. And I mean, like, hi, her dad is a former vice president. That's, it's the establishment, the more centered, right-centered, but still centered Republicans hopefully are going to take this to heart and say, no, we're not going to let our party be overtaken by terrorists. On the left side, we've had to do the same thing. We've had to be very vigilant about disavowing Antifa and just other anarchists who do things in the name of the left. We've had to be very vigilant about that. That hasn't had to happen on the other side, and now is, it's time. It's either this is going to be your party or it's not, and you got to make that clear.
But here's my thought process, and to me, it's pretty black and white. There were so many other issues before this that they had the opportunity to say, I don't want to align with him. I mean, they felt that he was their best choice to run for president again. I mean, what is it going to take? I mean, Pence won't even say no. Like, he is ruining his career.
The corporate money, donation money is drying up too. So that's really where the only way the change is going to come from, unfortunately, is when the money stops coming in. And I just wrote last semester, a 15-pager on the need for campaign finance reform and how the corporate money in our politics has just been a part of this huge polarization, because it's all about how can we corporations just want to increase their profits. They just want to make more money for the C-level executives at the top, and they don't care about what happens to the workers underneath. And I listen, I can go on and on and on.
No, listen, I just put up a yahoo.com, right? Because I wanted to see what they felt was important in our world right now. So here is their top list. Urgent reckoning for the Trump brand. So we're concerned over the Trump brand at this point, right? We're concerned about Chuck Norris lookalike being at the piece, right? Oh no, it gets better. Saved by the Bell star, hospitalized for cancer. So we're concerned about Screech, who was in porn, is now having cancer. And that is what is trending right now. That is not acceptable.
Yeah, and we need to help people learn, the disinformation, the amount of people that believe just so much straight disinformation and just verifiably untrue information is also, I think, a big thing that says that we need to be much more worried about our education system and how we're teaching people to think critically. It's the very, Orwellian, and George Orwell in 1984 has been tossed around in the past week without, with people not really having a full concept of what Orwell was pointing out in his books. But one of the most Orwellian things about this is the information silos that people live in, and you hear what you hear from your from people who are on your side, and that's straight truth. Nobody questions it. And that happens on the left too. You've got people who solely get their information from places like the Young Turks. To me, that's not a reliable news source, so I don't listen to that. Same reason I wouldn't listen to a Rush Limbaugh. He's not a reliable news source. You got to come somewhere into the middle, which, and then, there's that whole thing about it, but the middle is more likely to tell you the truth. And then so we just need to come back and get a collective sense of truth, I think.
Sara, have you ran into someone that has been totally against mask wearing? Right? Have you had that opportunity?
Yeah, I definitely have. I've had people say, oh, well, I'll wear it when I'm out and about just because I don't want anyone to say anything to me about it, but I don't really care. And to me, that was just a little bit astounding because I'm oh, okay. So I'm obviously trusted enough that you would say that to me, but maybe who's not saying that to me. It's definitely puts me a little bit, I don't know, a little
how are
unsafe.
You with going home to the family, to the baby? Do you go through a little zone
decontamination?
Yeah, so fortunately here at the office, our staff is very few. And I do have my own office space where I stay most of the day. So I've got my own little 15 by 15 space that I'm in, where I'm pretty much alone, which is wonderful. I pretty much have my own bathroom as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I've got a very, very private setup here, and the people I work with very much are taking the precautions necessary because they have um, compromises as far as health goes. So the people I'm around are taking the necessary precautions seriously as well, which definitely makes it a very fortunate situation for myself. My husband, though, works at a grocery store. He works at Wall Churchill's Market. So he has to be a little bit more cautious when he comes home. He
Yeah.
directly goes and takes a shower before, coming to greet us or hold our son, which can be very hard because Leo is one
That's the first
now
thing
and
you want
just
to
is
do.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, no. Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
So that's definitely tough. And my grandpa was recently diagnosed with cancer as well, so he's going through treatment right now. So my mom being our primary babysitter, knowing that she's taking the extra precautions as she also helps care for my grandpa, we are fortunate to have a group of people that are in our necessary needs to connect with that do take the precautions necessary.
Good. Good. Well, it's about that time. Gosh, we talked a lot today, right?
It flies by every week, doesn't
It
it?
really
Just flies
does.
by.
I know. We should extend it to like 4 hour time, right? Hang out with you for 4 hours. We would never get any work done ever. So lots of good conversations. Don't be afraid to travel. Just be cautious, right? And utilize the precautions. Um, Here's a tip when you travel, as I've recently learned. Check your CPAP machine. Make sure it's yours. Okay? Because the
Did you?
cases all look the same. So when you grab the case, make sure it's yours. Because then you got to recalibrate it, right? You got to clean it. There's so much other work. Just grab the right CPAP machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think that goes for like regular suitcases too. But yeah, for sure the CPAP
Grab your
as well.
own. Like if you had a pink suitcase and you decide now that you have a black suitcase, I promise you they don't color your suitcase while it's being loaded. Okay.
No.
Do people still steal out of suitcases?
I haven't heard of it happening much, but I imagine, sadly there's always that incident. I not so much a luggage tag, but I like to get some duct tape because luggage tags can rip off pretty easily. I like duct tape around one of the handles and write in
Okay.
permanent marker my name,
Got it.
Oh, that's a good idea
That's a good
too.
one.
or
That
like
helps.
grab a ribbon or something unique that you
Mhm.
will automatically see.
See, yeah, I do that with Roush. I'll put him in bright colors. So especially or particularly bright socks when he's playing sports. So I know exactly where to go to with my eye and know where he
Oh,
is.
perfect. That's
Yep.
Yeah.
such a good idea.
Yeah, that way he's out, right? Because everyone, there's 4 Jacksons on every team now, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you can't say that. So here's another question I have. So I just went skiing and had an amazing stay at an Airbnb, first time ever, amazing stay. So I look over and I'm like, so do we take the stuff, right? Because they left snacks out for us, like chocolates and candies. They had buckets full of lotions and so forth. Because if I'm at a hotel, I'm going to take my little lotions, right? And they go, not when we stay at an Airbnb, only when we stay for corporate hotels.
It's true.
Makes sense because you're like, oh, I don't want to, but it was such a nice layout. Is that custom? Do Airbnbs typically, Sarah, without an h.com,
Yeah.
leave the towel, not for us to take, right? But
Right.
like the snacks and the little amenities, and I love that word, amenities.
Amenities, it really varies by the host, and you do want to look at that host rating before booking, and you do
Mhm.
want to look at the reviews. It very much is a new trend for people who are doing primarily renting out their private spaces for them to do the extra things, like having the coffee pods and creamer, having a couple of snacks and quick needs that you would have that you're like, oh, I need something really fast, but I didn't go get the groceries yet. Those
I
are
mean, they
extras.
invested. They
Yeah.
invested in the
Oh, yeah.
space. So the bathroom was decked out in all Coke stuff and detailed. I mean, from the shower curtain to the little thing. I mean, it was so nice. There was 20 towels, and there wasn't anything that I thought that I would have needed that I wouldn't have had there. It
Yeah.
was just amazing. Like, to the point that I may just go back just to hang out there, because I like to go up to Ann Arbor, and I go to the Spa and Oasis. It's really cute. They have like 16 themed sauna rooms that are outside typically.
Ah.
Great time, right? $90 for an hour and a half after 5 o'clock on Friday, $60 before. It's just a nice little getaway if you want to do. But I spent less than $70, same amount of time to drive, and was able to sleep there.
Yeah.
Like, and they had a hot tub too. It was so nice. So nice.
Yes.
I wanted to. Thanks, Anne, if you're watching. You were awesome. So, Laura, why don't you go ahead and wrap us up, and we'll get out of here.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in again today for Connecting Communities with Brian J. and Laura Lee. And thank you to our guest, Sara Eiden, for stopping by and talking to us about her travel business. If you need any, if you have any travel needs, if you want to get some information about, you know, maybe some staycations or some further travel needs, you can book with Sara at, what's your website again?
plantravelmagic.com.
plantravelmagic.com. You can find me, Laura, at Toledo Talks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then you can find Connecting Communities on Facebook as well. And you can get both Connecting Communities and Toledo Talks as podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Right. And you have probably a lot to talk about this week, don't you, Laura?
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah, you do.
Toledo Talks is busting of content.
I know, it's just go. It's a 3-weeker, right? So we're getting ready to have another 3-day weekend.
Oh
MLK.
yeah, because Martin Luther King Day. Yeah. Very nice.
Do you think this year is going to be bigger? People are going to process it a little bit more?
I hope so, but you still won't be able to see much celebrations because of the pandemic. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
I just hope people I hope people are able to pause and pivot and realize the importance. And here's another one for you, and you don't realize this. Him, Barbara Walters, Helen Keller, all the same age.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of that, you think of them being forever. Oh, not my time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine what he would be doing right now? Him and Barack Obama, like, power team, right?
Right. Yeah. It'd be it would be interesting where we would be standing on poverty, because that was Dr. King's next thing that he was going to work on, was the People's Campaign against poverty. So
yeah.
Yep. It'd be interesting.
Would have, could have, should have. We got more time. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your time and energy. Be safe, take care, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.